Hi, welcome to week 3. Before we jump into what we're going to do this week, I just want to give you a little bit of encouragement. So I know it seems like there's a lot of stuff and a lot of new things to learn, but I'm seeing everybody figuring it out. Okay, so we're learning to use synchronous tools and asynchronous tools. If you did a Zoom session with me, we were synchronous, same time, same place. Asynchronous is Discord, same place, different time, like I post, you post, and email is sort of like that. And that's our topic this week. We'll get there in just a minute. But the more you practice and use these tools, the easier they'll become. And the good news is they'll be very useful because lots of places and people and activities and even things like job interviews, they use these type of tools. And so learning to use Discord and Zoom and Moodle and the GCF website, these will help you in the long run become more comfortable with navigating the internet. So congratulations and kudos for jumping in there and giving it your best shot. I also like that some people are sending me questions on their Discord notes channel. That's the best place to do it. Keep in mind, you're not in this class by yourself. This isn't a correspondence course. You don't have to figure it out all on your own. If you give it a pretty good shot and you read the instructions and you try some things out and it's still not working, you still can't figure it out, by all means, send a question. Let's see if we can work together to help you succeed in this. So our topic this week is email. And email sort of seems like old school communication these days, like back in the olden days. Hardly anybody uses a ton of email. And part of the problem is there's so much junk mail, just like in a regular mailbox. It's crazy. Didn't used to be that way, but now it's really easy to email. So lots of junk mail comes your way. And you need to learn to, what's the word I want? Kind of parse out or distinguish what the junk mail is, what the spam mail is. There are some malicious emails from ones that are actually valuable and useful. Just like if you went to your mailbox, there's a whole stack of mail, you kind of sort it out. You're like, well, these are junk, these are ads, these are bills I need to pay. These are maybe some letters that somebody wrote me, like personal communication. In your email, it's the same sort of thing. So you learn to sort things out. And just because somebody sends you something that looks official doesn't mean it is. So don't click a link unless you know who it's from and what the link is, because that's a pretty common strategy. I'm getting a bunch right now from Google Drive and I'm not exactly sure, I need to look into this, but people are sharing documents with me saying, hey, this is your document. You need to click this link and fill out this form and do this thing. And I can tell it's spam. I can tell it's junk mail. They're just trying to get my information. So I'm like, no way, I'm not even opening it because I don't know who it is. There's spelling errors. There's lots of tip-offs in the messages. So our resources this week are going to help you figure out some of that. And we'll keep talking about this probably as the class goes on. But this week we're going to hit that hard. So let's take a let's take a look. Let me do a screen share. We'll take a look here and see what we're working on. I just need to make sure I find the right place, the right window. There we go. All right, so beyond email. So like I said, we're using lots of communication tools. Email is one way to communicate, but we've also used Zoom. We've also used Discord. We're also using Moodle. There's lots of ways to communicate. Text messaging, that's a good communication strategy. So when you come here, always read the start here part, start in the start here. Now, if you're looking at this in the mobile app, you might not even see some of what's written here. So it might not make sense. And if you're not using the checklist, honestly, all this is going to look like a bunch of disconnected boxes. So always open up the checklist, save a copy to your own Google Drive. There's a link on that checklist page that tells you how to manage your files so you don't end up opening this 10 times and having 10 copies. But you can go down. I'll point out this video time thing here in just a minute, and you can say, hey, I completed that, and use this as your own checklist. Now, keep in mind, there's a little bit of confusion about what are assignments and what are not. Keep in mind, we don't have a textbook. And so the resources I put here and the GCF Learn tutorials, those are our textbook, okay? So that's kind of like me saying, hey, go read the chapter on whatever the chapter is that week. So when you come down here, we got some fun. This video right here, the flashback to the internet in 1994 is hilarious, except for I remember that. I remember that interview. And because I was there in 1994 trying to figure out email and using all this stuff. And so it's really interesting to see what the perspective was back there and to think now people use this stuff all the time. Anyhow, I think you'll enjoy that. And I always put how long the videos are on the checklist. So that way you can just get a feel for how much time it will take. There's going to be some information about password security because you can't really talk about email without passwords. And so we want to look at how to make a really good, strong password. So there's this 3 random words video. There's some information about how hackers and cybersecurity experts do hacking. Like, how does that actually work? How does somebody get into your account? And think about it. How many accounts do you set up where you have to use your email address to authenticate the account? Lots of them. So if somebody gets into your email account, they might just have access to your bank account, to lots of other things. So you want to make sure your email account is secure, and that's what these videos will talk about. In the Learn section, we've got a GCF tutorial, a couple of them, email basics, Gmail, and beyond email. So you'll have to look at that to see what that's all about. And some of you discovered that even though I list out all the pages in the tutorial, the different topics, that if you just click the first one, you keep scrolling down and you can do it. You can hit them one by one if you want to, but you can also just keep reading through the whole tutorial and looking at the videos. And then I've got some things on password and authentication, an article and a video. Just a little bit more information, like how do you make sure your account is safe? What is 2-factor authentication? How do you create a secure password? That's what these videos are all about. So down in the do section, this is the actual assignment for the week. Now, if you just jump to this, you're going to miss out on all the good, useful information. And this is a really important week. This has to do with your email security and how to use email more effectively, because there are ways to use it more effectively. One of the reasons, for example, that in the syllabus, I said, start all of your emails to me with CIS136, no spaces. There was even a question on the syllabus quiz about that. CIS136, no spaces, is because when you send me an email with that, my Gmail filters that and puts it directly into the folder for this class. That way I don't have to go hunting for it, because sometimes your emails end up in my spam folder and I don't see them for a couple of weeks because I don't check that every day. So make sure you use the correct subject line. So there's tips and tricks like that to help your email be more effective. Anyhow, there's going to be 2 quizzes. I'm going to jump down to that, email basics and Gmail basics. But then there's this kind of interesting password and email security. So let me jump back over to Moodle. And if you remember, the checklist maps to what you should see here in Moodle. But it gives you a little more information about each of these things. So I'm going to come down here. There's the using email, password authentication, email basics. Here we go. Password and email security. Now, this is an interesting assignment, and it's got a couple of parts. And so instead of putting all that into Moodle, what I did is I linked to the assignment document. So you're gonna do the assignment. We'll go there in just a second. And then there's a submission form. And then it gives you some information, just a little bit of information about why this is an important thing. It's kind of what I was just saying. If hackers get into your email, wow, you have lots of stuff that's compromised. So let's open up the assignment. And again, this gives you a little more information. I always recommend in a Google Doc that you open up the document outline. So there's this little, looks like a table of contents here. That's exactly what it is. When you open that up, it gives you, you can jump to all these different parts and you can get an overview of the whole thing. So we're going to talk a little bit about why secure email is important, and then the assignment. There's these three things that you're going to do as part of this. So you're going to do them, keep track of your responses, and then at the bottom, there's a submission form. So this first site is a site where you put in your email address and you put in your password and you check to see if it's been part of a data breach. Now, I know, I get it. That sounds sketchy, right? But I've checked out this site. This is a legitimate site, but I encourage you to read the frequently asked questions and the about this site to decide for yourself. Because in general, you should not just put in your email address and password into random sites that you don't know about. So start developing that habit by finding out about this site right here. Anyhow, what you're going to do is put it in, and there are some known data breaches, and you hear about these in the news every once in a while, actually fairly frequently, where Home Depot or Target or some big bank or something gets hacked basically, and their data is compromised. You might have even received a letter in the mail, because that's usually what happens, is they mail you a letter saying, hey, your email address or your password or something came up in this list of stuff that was stolen. And so what this will do when you go to this website, this will actually tell you, is it on a list, and what list is it on? And here's some suggestions for what to do if it's found on the list. Now, if you're lucky, it'll say, nope, it's, secure. Anyhow, so that's the first site. The second one is how secure is your password? And again, you're not going to just put your password in. Check out the company, see what you think about them. But this is kind of a fun one, because you type in a password. I'm going to just open it up. You type in a password, and then it tells you. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, ABC. And watch what happens. 1, 2, 3, ABC. This is how long it will take to hack. 1, 2, 3, ABC. Now I'm going to throw in a few characters. I'm going to put the @ symbol. I don't know. Let's use the word goats, using some code like G0ATZ. Okay, 200 years. That's a little better. That's not forever, but you could keep trying things. So instead of ABC 1, 2, 3, maybe I'll just start off with goats at, put in a capital letter, put in some numbers, and so I did goats at passwords, but I used a capital P, and I used the @ sign, the ampersand sign for an A, and I used a 0 for the O, and I put a Z at the end. And now suddenly it's 93 trillion years. That's a fairly safe password. Not 100% guaranteed, but a little bit better. And so it gives you some tips. It's telling it's long. Actually, let me put in back to ABC 1, 2, 3. ABC 1, 2, 3. Instantly. I like how the color changes. Common password in the top 20 most used passwords. Rawr. And then it's giving you some reasons why, and then how to create a good one. Okay. So you're not going to share that with me. Well, you're going to share with me the results, but you're not going to share what your actual password is, because that wouldn't be very secure. So that's part 1 and part 2. Uh-oh, my Google Doc froze. Let me reload it. The very third part is, and on both of those, you're going to analyze the results. Uh-oh, exit page, reload. That happens sometimes. I'm using a web browser called Brave, and overall it's pretty good, but once in a while that happens. Okay, so we already looked at this part. The last part is there are some resources in Moodle. So I want you to make sure you looked at all those resources, and then looked at the things you learned on those first 2 websites, and you're going to write up a paragraph and tell me, like, what are 3 useful things that you learned about how to make your password and email more secure. Once you get that, there's a Google form, and you just are going to type in your answers. So it's kind of the same thing as on the assignment, but you just plug in your answers. Now, I am going to give you an admonition here. I don't recommend typing up your answers directly into the form. I recommend using a word processor, a Google Doc, a text editor, something. Like type up your responses somewhere else first for two reasons. One, so what just happened, like where I had to reload the page, if that happens to your form, you'll lose all your information. And you might have just typed like the best paragraph you've ever typed and it's gone. So type it somewhere else. Well, part two is for some reason, if I don't get it, you've got a copy of what you responded. Now, when you submit this, it should email you a copy of your responses as long as you put in the correct email address. And if you don't see it in your inbox, then check the spam folder. Anyhow, this is, I think you're going to find this a really useful exercise. Let me back up here. Actually, let me just stop sharing. I think you're going to find this a really practical, useful week. Keep exploring, keep experimenting, try out all the things, think about all the things, and see what you come up with. And don't forget, ask the questions. Use your direct channel to me to ask questions. There's tutors set up in the CIS department. I'm going to post some stuff out about that. So you have resources. You don't have to do this by yourself. Anyhow, I'm looking forward to seeing what you come up with this week because the insights are always interesting for me to read. Have a great week.